Can yes, recording has started. Um, so now, once again, our um, uh, kind of a reminder: the call is being recorded. We place our recording on our YouTube channel, and this call is joined by our Microsoft team members as well as members from our customers and partners. So today's topic is Azure Load Testing Preview, which is a service which is currently in public preview. So what we are going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about what is Azure Load Testing. Just a quick level set. This just went into public preview recently. It's a new service, how it works. Some of the mostly it's going to be demo, a few slides just to kind of do a quick level set. Okay. Um, so what is Azure Load Testing? Azure Load Testing is a managed services provided by Azure to generate high scale load to test your web application. Those applications can be hosted in Azure or they can be hosted on-prem as long as they are accessible over a public internet. Okay. So what it allows you to do is, I mean, if you want to test, you want to find out what's the capacity, what's the limit of your application, and find any performance bottleneck, this is the service you should be using. This is a high-level architecture. Um, One interesting thing is it uses JMeter scripts behind the scenes. So basically, if you want to create a test, you can either have if you are already using JMeter, you can use that script. It just keep the version in mind, 4.5.1, or you can download JMeter, create a script with it for your application, and use that with Azure Load Testing, and we'll see that in a demo. This is just want to make sure everybody is aware. Just the slides are there for more of a reference, okay? And also, it has support for JMeter plugins. Whatever plugins that are available on that site, those it has support for those plugins, so you can use those in your script. One other thing to keep in mind, I have in the references in the once you kind of see the slide deck, the references you will see a link to the JMeter, and so that's that. Uh, One other thing I want to mention that scaling and how it kind of scales and targets the application. So one thing to keep in mind is that it is sensitive applications throttling requirements. So let's say if you are load testing an application and it starts sending out HTTP code for that is being throttled 429, too many requests, it will stop load testing it. So because there's no point, the application is saying, hey, I'm done. I can't take any more load. So um, that's a very abrupt, kind of I shouldn't say abrupt, it is a very deliberate thing to do. Okay. In regards to scale out of the load test, you can create multiple test engine. Okay. Second, it gathers two type of metrics. One, client side metrics, that's pretty standard. You are hitting that web app or whatever API, and what it is doing behind the scene is it's collecting all that information about what is the request per second, what is how many total number of users and things like that. So all those things, it response time, usual stuff, it will collect. If that service is running in Azure or it's using Azure Monitor, then what you can gather is server-side metrics as well. So what will happen is that it will show you what was the response on the server side. So let's say you're getting a not good response time. So it can show you what were the server-side components which were not performing and which you can optimize. So that's a important thing to remember. Okay.
And with the
A
question
very
of the chat, sorry to
yes,
interrupt
please.
him.
Go ahead.
You finish
Sorry,
the
man, I should
section.
have. Yeah, go ahead.
So does it require public access, or can the testing request be sent over private or ER?
No, at the moment it requires public access. Yes. So right now it cannot test. That's what I said. That's why I want to clarify that this is only for public-facing web application, mean application that are accessible over the internet. Okay. So yeah, that's not at the moment. It's available for private websites. Maybe someday in the future. Um, so I hope that addresses the question.
I think it does. If there's a follow-up, please feel free to put it on the chat.
Thanks, Salah. Really appreciate it, man. So in regards to data security and privacy, so since it is generating load for the web application or headless web apps, API management, API or things like that, it is collecting data. Responses are coming back. So how that data is stored? That data is stored encrypted using Microsoft Manage Key. And additionally, if you are accessing anything using this service, for example, a key vault or sort, you can use managed identity. So this service supports managed identity. You can set up system managed identity to access resources in other services. So that's kind of the whole data security and privacy. So that's the kind of a advantage of using a service in Azure, service for load testing in Azure, because you get all the goodies that the good things that comes with the cloud, the security and privacy, Azure cloud with that particular service if they are applicable. Okay. So with that, enough with the slides. Let's see a demo. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a service resource, and we're going to go in here, and I'm going to say Azure Load Testing, and it's going to bring this up. As you can see, it's very simple. The reason I want to show you the creation, there is one thing to keep in mind, which kind of threw me off a bit, um, as I did not go through the documentation properly. So here it is. So you can, these are the regions where it's available. We're going to just use East US, and I'm going to call it very unique and creative name. And let's create the service. Okay, it will take uh, a few seconds to create the service, but I'm going to wait. That's okay. So it's created. Let's go in here. Okay. Look at that. You're not authorized, though I have created this resource, I cannot access it. So this is something that you will have to do since load testing is a sensitive thing. I mean, if somebody by mistake run a load test against a production site, it can cause some issues and problems or things like that. Um, so that's why that's what they have done. You will have to give explicit access, either reader, contributor, or owner, load test owner, load test contributor, or load test reader for this resource to be accessible. What that means? It means reader, they can look at the tests, contributor, they can create tests, but they cannot change anything about the load test resource. And load test owner, of course, they can do everything. So what I'm going to do is, since I have access, I have the user access administrator, I'm going to do a role assignment, and I am going to assign load test owner to my account. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to just say, this is my account and I have access now. Review and assign. Okay, just I want you to be aware, it may take a few minutes for this to work. Okay, so what you may see is if you refresh the screen, you will still see, the same thing. So for example, if we go back here, you may still see the same error that, or message, I shouldn't say error, some message that you cannot access this service. So I would say maybe just wait for a few minutes and come back to it, and this thing will should go away. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we are not gonna wait since we only have 30 minutes. We are going to go towards an existing service that we have and look at that. Okay, so we have an existing service here. This is a service that I have already created, and this is how this service looks like. As you can see, overview, activity log, access control, tags. This is pretty standard stuff. Identity, as you can see here, I can turn it on and I say use managed identity, and it will be using managed identity if I'm accessing any resource. This is the core of this thing, tests. So how you create a test. Um, Very simple. So let's see the experience. I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna say I wanna create a test. It says, do you wanna run the test right after creation? No. I can name it APL demo 01. Um, Purpose is demo. And this is what I'm talking about, test plan. Okay. That's where you need a JMeter script file, which has a .jmx extension. If you look in the documentation link is there. They have sample files that you can download and play with it. If um, you want to create your own, I mean, you can just play with the XML and create it. Or I would say, I will highly recommend just go and download JMeter. You can download it. I have already downloaded Apache JMeter, and you can create a new script file. The script file will look something like this. Okay, sorry, and it's on a different screen, so let me move it here, and I hopefully everybody can see it. Let me know if the size is um, too small. So this is the file. You have a test plan, then it's kind of a hierarchical structure. You have, this is the test plan, name, pretty standard uh, kind of an information. And then you have the, um, what are the thread group, how it's going to be running. We need 5 threads, a wrap up time, schedule, total duration, things like that. So you need to have this. And one thing to keep in mind, this is important. This is your domain, which is your web app that you are testing. Please do not put any HTTP or HTTPS. It will not work. It has to be like in this format. Okay. Everybody with me so far? As
And
yeah, go ahead, please.
yeah, excuse me. So why do we need the JMeter here? I'm new to this performance testing.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. So
it's supposed to be Azure, right?
no, no,
Azure.
absolutely. JMeter is just to generate the script file. So I mean, how you tell load testing what a website to test, how many users, and what are different parameters or what web pages you need to test. Okay,
Yeah.
that's where JMeter comes into picture. Either you can record in JMeter a script, like you can hit different website and it will record it, or you can build it. Like here, I am a test plan. I can say add a new thread group and all that. So you can do both, and then what you can do is just save it. Okay, it will save it as a JMX file, and then use that file in Azure for load testing. And
Nice.
Azure, so that's how it will know. Okay, yeah, I need to run 5 threads, that many users, and this site I need to test. Okay, so
Got it.
that's where
Yeah. Thank
JMeter
you
comes
so.
into picture.
I got it. Thank you so much.
Okay. So yeah, um, I mean, and thanks for this question. I know it's sometimes it's like kind of a confusing, but to okay. So basically, what we're going to do is I have a sample test file I'm going to use, and I'm going to upload this file. This is uploaded. Um, and then the next thing is parameters. So parameters are environment variable or secrets. So what you can do is you can give the name. I mean, if there's simple things like, some test parameters for some queries that you're making, you can use that. Um, Ideally, these what you can do, either you can use this if you are getting any passwords, that's where that managed identity will come into picture. You can put a name here and the value of that kind of a, let's say it's some sensitive data. The value can be stored in Key Vault, and you can provide the URL for that in here, and it will use its managed identity to get that value from the Key Vault. So, so don't have to worry about, oh man, I'm storing sensitive data in my test. Somebody comes in and take a look at it and say, oh wow, that's the password. So you can store that securely in Key Vault, use managed identity for this service, and it will get it from the Key Vault at the when it's running the test. For this test, we don't need anything. It's just a simple test. I'm just gonna run one instance, test criteria. So if you wanna fail or pass this test, because remember, you can run these tests as a part of your DevOps routine. So when you are running that deployment before that, you can run this test to find out if your deployment is kind of working and all that. So that is for this monitoring. That's where you can add Azure resources, and we will look in a second demo, which is for actual load testing, that how you can do that. And finally, you do a review and create. The test is done, and let's create this test. It will take a second. So that test is there, and what we can do now is start running it. Okay, and it will we can click on the test run, and in a second it says start provisioning. It will start running the test, and you will start seeing this some data here. Okay, so in the meantime, any questions?
Yeah, Naveed,
Again, it's sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
go ahead,
Yeah,
please. Go ahead.
using this Azure load testing, right? Can we test the front end apps also?
Yeah.
Oh,
Front end apps mean, I mean, as long as they are web application.
yes, you have a web application. Yes,
Yeah, exactly. That's the goal. So it is for web application like your websites,
yes,
or your headless web application, which is, for example, it can be an API or things like headless means there is no UI. They're just
yes.
REST. Yeah.
Mhm.
So as long as they're available over HTTP, HTTPS, they're accessible. So this is how the load test is running. You can see response time. How I'm just hitting one page. Nothing kind
Thank you
of
so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Sorry. Allah,
There's a,
any other
there's
question?
a yeah, there's a relevant question on is there a cost analysis spike for execution for the load?
That's a good question. That's maybe a new feature add. No, not yet. Not yet. Not in the preview. But that would be a good one where you're saying, yeah, that's how much
That
money I
would
have
be
been
good.
paying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. No, no, not yet. Not yet.
What is the difference between this and chaos testing? Is it the
Yeah.
same concept both sides?
No, load testing is more, I would say, linear, because what you're saying is you're generating load, you want to see. Chaos testing is, let me throw some um, kind of uh, some things that um, may or may not happen. Like one of my VM in AKS cluster just dies, okay? Or one of my web app in the number of web apps I have or app service, just goes offline. Or one of my database goes offline. you know, these kind of things. Load testing is more for capacity, where you saying, okay, yeah, I mean, I need to find out what is my capacity, what are the performance bottleneck that my application may face. So that's where this thing comes into picture. Okay, so yeah, probably I want to do one more session on Chaos Studio, which is
Yeah,
just
because exactly, that's what I was looking at, right? The Chaos Studio that
yeah.
just released as well. So I was want to see, like, is it the same thing or we have two separate things?
No, it's different. It's different. So
Okay.
definitely Chaos Studio is where you want to see, okay, does my application degrade gracefully? Or is it like one of the component, which is maybe not the essential component, goes and suddenly everything goes haywire, So that's the main goal of that. This one is more of a, okay, what is my capacity? What are the bottleneck? What is stopping me from getting to the steady state that I want to be in? Okay, so that's the goal. Okay, I hope
David,
that
is there
was your question. Uh-huh. Go ahead.
from the chat, is there some kind of headless browser that's attempting different UX scenarios in the load testing?
Yes, of course there is something. Basically, it's making HTTP request. There is an engine running behind the scene which is hitting it, and that's where I think. Hey guys, can you hear me? Hello.
Dropped for a second, but I think you are back, Naveed.
Yeah. So this is a wonderful spam calls that I'm getting. So let me just turn that off. Yeah. So yeah, you will be I mean, there is a browser that is sitting behind the scene, and as far as I know, you can set up parameters where you can specify which browser you want to be. You know, so you can send certain headers to simulate that. As far as I know. Okay. Any other questions?
Those are on the chat so far.
Perfect.
Hey, a
Perfect.
quick
Yes.
question about
Go ahead.
the cost analysis. So does the cost analysis spike when you do your test, when you do one iteration of your test, or when will that be reflected? Will it be reflected in the next 24
Depending
hours?
on depending on if you so let's say you have a web app and a service plan behind the scene, you set up auto scaling. As you increasing the load, it is scaling up. So yes, you will be charged more, because your application has scaled up. Once it's scaled down and your load test finishes, it's scaled down, then hopefully you will pay less. But that depends on your application. I mean, right now it does not estimate cost. It is just the cost of your test when you are running. So yes, one other thing is when you are running this with 100 user, there's a per user charge that you will be paying for this running this test. I think it's in the cost summary. Uh, yeah, it's still in preview. So once that goes GA, then it will be more material. Um, so
Naveed,
let's
sorry, one more question. Is there any way to test mobile app load, or would you just be able
Not
to hit the
yet,
API?
just the API. I think, yeah, that's for the API, not for the mobile apps. That's I mean, definitely you can test the API. Okay. So, folks, let's hold on her question. I just want to show you one more thing here, which is basically the server side matrix that's I want to show. So, let's go into test, and there is this test here which is doing load testing, and I want to show you some of the things in this. Um, this is the test run that I did. These are client-side metrics, and as you can see, this is pretty standard. Okay, I think that was a different test. Let me just go in here. That's perf test. Where did that test go? Um, okay, I think that's a different test. So let me just go back here. Yeah, I'm gonna go in here and These are my tests. Yeah, this is the perf test. Sorry, that's the one I was talking about. There are two runs. One I ran it yesterday, and one I ran it today. And this is pretty standard stuff. I'm sure this is kind of as the load increases, and this is the response from different services. As you can see, there are some services which are behaving right. There are errors that I'm getting. And these are the server side metrics. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is this application, just kind of give you a quick overview. It's a web app which is using Cosmos DB behind the scene. Okay. So, and by the way, this is I'm just using a sample that is available in the documentation. So there is nothing that I have to upload to GitHub. It is available. Please take a look. This is all about server-side metrics. So in this test, I have set up these resources to collect the matrix from. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at um, the Cosmos DB resource. Okay. So this is what it is showing. You have total requests. These are number of requests coming in, provision throughput, and then RU consumption. Look at the graph. Provision throughput is 400, but RU consumption is kind of at 100%. That tells me that once, and if I kind of superimpose these two graphs together, as soon as my RU consumption hit 100%, I'm getting a lot of errors, which means that my service cannot respond to the request because I don't have any RUs or the RUs, which is the Cosmos DB measure of how much kind of a throughput consumption, how much throughput it can support. That's what, or capacity. It's a capacity of your Cosmos DB. So either have to increase the capacity or made it elastic where it can automatically go up and down. Okay. So my point is, with using this tool, you can not only get client side matrix, but you can also look at the server side matrix as well. As long as the service is running in Azure and, as you have Azure Monitor integration, it will show it to you so you can easily, troubleshoot or performance bottleneck. So that's that's the end-to-end scenario that I want to make sure everybody gets it. So with that, we are right on time. 1 minute remaining. Any questions?
All the result, are we writing somewhere or just within just one resource? Can you
This
share
is in
across
this
all?
resource. Yeah, this is shared in here. This
No, I
is
mean, like,
basically
if you have a, like, if you have a resource where you dump in all the data, log analytics or anything, can we like send it there or just has to be here?
That's a good question. At the moment, it is storing. I mean, this is the resource where all of these results are stored. Just keep in mind, all the monitoring data is still in Azure Monitor. It is just showing you a snapshot of it. Okay. So when we talk about server matrix, that data is still in Azure Monitor. It's just showing you, hey, this is what's going on. This is what's I'm seeing in Azure Monitor. This data, when we talk about client side, that is stored in Azure Load Testing only, encrypted with Microsoft managed keys, but it is only there. And you can download it. So you can download logs, results. At the moment, you cannot move it off to a storage account, but you can download it. Yeah.
Maybe can this load testing be integrated into CI/CD pipeline?
Yes, it can. Absolutely. That's why you have these metrics where you can say, hey, if it hits, if hitting 90% and all, it means that I'm doing something wrong. There's something wrong with the code. It shouldn't be that case, so you can cancel your deployments or roll
Is there
back your.
Maybe we take last question. Does application insights need to be enabled for the web app for this to work?
Yes, yes, that's right. Yeah, so it relies on monitoring data. Remember, it's not going to magically create monitoring data for server side. If you have that monitoring data, and it's very important that you have it, it will show you that. Otherwise, I mean, if you're not monitoring your application, you will only be able to see the client side stuff, which to me are symptoms mostly. Symptoms are high response time, a lot of errors. And what are the cause? Cause is always on the server side, almost always on the server side. Where, for example, here we are, RU consumption is very, very high. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. In terms of correlating the data where the solution contains multiple components, right? I mean, you showed one with Cosmos DB. Assume it has an API front end with AKS or some other application behind it.
Actually,
so can we get all of the data in this screen?
Here it is. All of the data is here. This has an API. So this is basically web app. This is the web app data. This is coming from what is that? App Insights. And so, of course, if you have an AKS, let's say it's a complex application, it has an AKS. Behind the scene, it has app service, or maybe at the front end, and there is a database component. So yes, all of that you can include when you create a test. So I can add this. This is the list of all the app components. Okay. If there are more in that resource group, I mean, you can have multiple subscription. You can add all those components here.
Okay. Okay.
That's how you mark them. Hey, collect the data from, or no, show the data on here. That's how it correlates. So we are 3 minutes over. Any other questions?
Thanks, Ravi.
Okay, folks, thank you very much.
Thanks.
And hope everybody stays safe. Have a wonderful weekend and see everybody next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rajiv.